You know every movie fan has one. The movie they swear is absolutely awful and they just hate it. The movie was terrible, you argued about it with your friends who loved it, and you rolled your eyes anytime the film got brought up. And then one day, maybe 5 years later, 10, 20 years later, you realized this movie grew on you. Maybe the problem wasn't it, maybe it was you. Well, I have 10 of those to talk about today, and some of them are complete reversals. I used to hate them, and now I absolutely love them. Some of them are partial reversals, and I'm still not crazy about the films overall, but I respect them in a way that I never did before. And at least one of them on this list, I never watched fully until after my dad passed away, after years of him trying to get me to sit down and watch it with him. I'll save that one for last. We've got a hell of a list here, so pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so movies that I love now, or at least really like and respect, that I used to just kind of hate overall, or just never gave them a fair chance. I got 10 of them. We're going to jump right into the list with one that actually may make some of you out there angry that I changed my mind. It is 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This reversal probably surprises nobody because most people didn't like this movie when it came out, and a lot of people still absolutely hate this movie. But I have come around on it in such a way that it might be my third favorite Indiana Jones movie, maybe topping Temple of Doom. Yes, look, when it came out in 2008, I didn't really like it. It was okay. I was kind of disappointed though, kind of irritated in some parts. 19 years of waiting to get a sequel to my favorite franchise probably ever. And then you get the refrigerator, the interdimensional beings, because Spielberg really didn't want to call them aliens because he had done Aliens so much. You know, you got the groundhogs doing double takes, whatever, CGI monkeys, prairie dogs, that's what they were. Kate Blanchett doing a questionable accent. So I kind of left not super happy with it. Then I've rewatched it again and again because I love Harrison Ford. I love Steven Spielberg. And you know what? I actually think this is a great callback. It's 1950s sci-fi cheese era, and I think it fits there with this. The timing is still sharp with Harrison Ford on this. The chemistry between him and Karen Allen is back. I actually think Shia LaBeouf is not as bad, and they don't break Indy down. They don't take away everything that he was. They still make him in charge and the badass that he always was. That chemistry with Karen Allen when they come back together. It's not a perfect Indiana Jones film. It's nowhere near in the vicinity of Raiders or Last Crusade. But the problem was never that it wasn't those movies, because very few things are. It's that we were judging this by those movies. And at least one of those is an absolute perfect film in every way. That's Raiders. So it could never live up to that. It just couldn't do it. But over time, I have genuinely come to enjoy this movie, and it might be my third favorite Indy. So it kicks us off here at number 10. All right, now next one might be one of the most controversial ones. It might be the most controversial take on here. It is 1997, actually, Scream 2. And I now think Scream 2 might be my favorite. I think I like it better than the original, and I didn't really like it when it came out. When it came out, I was a massive Sarah Michelle Gellar fan. Still am. And Buffy was appointment television. It was like the big thing on TV. And I went in expecting Sarah Michelle Gellar to be a bigger part of this film. And I was looking forward to that. So I was disappointed when she got killed pretty early in the film and slightly irritated. And then the whole storyline about movies inspiring violence and all that. I was like, oh God. Here we go with this kind of stuff. We're going to start blaming movies and everything. And then the more I watch it, I realized that it has got some fun performances in it. It's very like confident in what it's doing. It was filmed not far away from where I live. Courtney Cox, Neve Campbell, Arquette, they're all back. Jamie Kennedy is back. And then you integrate these new characters. I'm a big fan of Timothy Olyphant and everything that he does. It's got the meta commentary again. I think it works. It's more fun. It's even more sort of meta than the first one in a lot of ways. And I hate to admit it, but I actually think this one is better, and that is a complete reversal for me from when it came out. Oh boy, the next one, some of you are going to be like, this dude's just crazy. He should have kept his original opinion. But it's the 2005 Amityville Horror remake starring Ryan Reynolds. And listen, the original Amityville Horror is one of my favorite horror films of all time. Period, the end. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's dark, moody, atmospheric, got that late 70s, early 80s vibe to it, and it's genuinely haunting and scary and kind of stays with you. Very dark. But this one is different, but it's still really good. So I went in because I love the original. I'm defensive immediately when you do a remake. I'm just going to be super defensive on it. And instead, you do get some jump scares and stuff like that with the more modern horror films that were doing this around the early 2000s. And you get Ryan Reynolds instead of James Brolin in here. And you're not really expecting a whole lot from that because he's a comedy guy. But holy crap, the more you watch this movie, the more you realize it's almost more scary. Because this is a guy with his turn, I should say. Not overall, it doesn't have the same haunting effect as the original. But with his performance in here, it's a guy that you're used to seeing be comedic and fun and funny and never take anything serious. And he has those light, jokey Ryan Reynolds vibes. So when he turns and when he snaps on a dime, it is way more disturbing, really, than the quiet, stoic James Brolin who just gets more and more kind of possessed, if you want to say. This turning back and forth was actually harder to do. It sets you on edge, and it made me like this even more. I like the atmosphere of it. They bring in more of that rain, storm vibes. They got the nice 70s aesthetic going in here. And the moment when Ryan Reynolds is in the basement and, you know, he's holding the axe, he sells this thing. He sells it. He sells it as a guy deteriorating and coming apart. And you just see glimpses of him. So where a lot of modern horror movies now, they want to keep the tension so high that it's hard to get that spike because of scares and turn it up because they keep you on high alert the whole time and they never let off and let the pressure off. This movie still did what 80s, 90s horror movies were really good at. They would get the tension up and then they would ease it off with some comedy, disarm you, make it lighter, and then boom, twist the knife back in and take it up even higher. This one is one that I completely changed on, and I highly recommend the Amityville Horror remake. Yeah, it's got some cheesy, additions to it and that sort of early 2000s stuff that they did, but overall, a very good film that I like a whole lot more now. Now, this next one is kind of personal, and it's 1985's Legend, and this is Tim Curry as the darkness, as the devil himself, and that became my childhood sort of vision of what the devil looked like, that haunted my nightmares. Not really Freddy so much, though, a little bit. Never Jason. Jason never scared me like that. But the darkness, the devil himself. Look, if you're going to go have a villain to haunt your nightmares, I guess you might as well go to the top. And Tim Curry with this makeup, yeah, he was at the top of that. So that red skin, that voice, all of that got inside my head. So I avoided the film for a long time. I really did. And it's only been in the last couple years that I've really gone back and reevaluated this dark fantasy horror. And you've got the good wins in the end in this, which is a good message that we kind of toss out a lot nowadays that doesn't happen. But when you finally watch this properly as the dark fantasy spectacle it is, with the Tangerine Dream soundtrack to this thing, man, this thing really, really works as all that dark fantasy, good versus evil, adventure, all of that, in having the big boss, the darkness himself, the devil at the end in this form where you actually have to fight him off. It really, really works as one of the best dark fantasy films ever made, and I avoided it for years because of what it did to my nightmares. And so I didn't like it as a kid, I didn't like it growing up, but now really love this movie. The next one also comes from 1985, and I actually mentioned it on a video a few weeks ago, but this one is After Hours, Martin Scorsese, and this is one that I blind bought on Criterion's 4K when it came out like a year or two ago, and I didn't like the movie the first time I watched it. I actually really wasn't crazy about the movie the second time I watched it, but the more I watch this film, the more I like it. Specifically as a filmmaker, too, like and a cinematographer, somebody who just loves the aesthetic, the rain and glowing neon lit reflective streets and atmosphere of New York City as a character, or any of that. Very Michael Mann, the way this thing looks. If you look at Michael Mann's The Thief, this kind of has that sort of same cinematography to it. And Scorsese is basically making a black comedy here. It's a dark comedy overall is what it is, about one of the worst surreal nights you could ever have in New York City that just keeps getting worse and worse for this poor guy. And he just wants to go home, but he can't get there. And the more you watch this thing, it's a comedy of errors. It kind of spirals in on itself, and every step that this guy takes to try to get out of this situation just digs him deeper and deeper, into the point where it's not really dramatic. It's just like maximum effort and terrible things keep happening. So it's almost comedic, but you're laughing at someone's misfortune, which is why it's sort of a dark comedy, because every terrible thing that could happen to this poor dude is happening to him. And it's all done with beautiful cinematography throughout the film that looks very different every time you watch it. If you have a 4K and an OLED setup, this is breathtaking, awesome cinematography that should just make you salivate to look at. And then the more you watch it because of that, the more you realize this is a good movie, and I absolutely hated it the first time I watched it, but now I highly recommend After Hours, something very different from Martin Scorsese. Okay, now this next one is probably my most complicated relationship of any film on here with my psyche and how it came out, and that is Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. And boy, my relationship with Superman in general is not casual. I am a massive Superman fan, a massive Smallville fan. I think Christopher Reeve's Superman and Smallville have captured Superman the way he should be more than anything else. And Christopher Reeve said that Tom Welling was Superman to him, and that was a Superman story. And the word is that this film was actually turned down by Tom Welling because he said this wasn't a proper Superman story. And I still agree with him, though I really like this movie more than I did then. When it came out, I hated it. I hated this movie when it came out because it took away everything that Superman is to me in so many ways. Now, I like Henry Cavill as Superman, but the desaturated color palette, dark and moody, this is Nolan's influence trying to remake Batman. And Superman is not Batman. They're supposed to be 180-degree opposites of each other for a reason. The way they think, the way they operate, aesthetically, all of that. And you try to make this that. But then the biggest problem I have of anything, Jonathan Kent dying in a tornado when when Superman could have saved him. Number one, and one other little aside, Jonathan Kent suggesting that Clark should let a busload full of kids die in order to protect his secret. Jonathan Kent would never do that. Salt of the earth, best portrayal ever, John Schneider in Smallville. Would never ever do that. okay? And then you get Clark Kent letting his father die in a tornado rather than a heart attack, which is how it's supposed to be. And you take away fundamentally a lot of what Superman is at that point. Because Superman, the reason his dad dies of a heart attack in the comic books is so that he can learn he is not God. That no matter how powerful he is, no matter how strong, no matter how virtuous, he cannot save everyone, no matter what. So that is a very important lesson for him to learn. Clark would never let his father or anyone else die to protect his secret. That is not him. That is fundamentally not Superman. It is also fundamentally not Jonathan Kent. And to this day, I still absolutely hate those parts of this movie. And I really dislike the desaturated color palette and all of that. However, I really like the movie overall. I have to set that stuff aside and compartmentalize it because those things drive me nuts still. But overall, the film is super enjoyable. I love Russell Crowe as Jor-El in this. I like a lot of this movie. So the likes outweigh the dislikes. It is fun to watch. I enjoy it. I enjoy the Smallville parts. I enjoy pretty much everything else about the movie besides those things. But it's taken me a long time to come around on it because of those. But it is definitely better than the most recent Superman we got, James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn. And if this were just, if it took those parts out and it was bright and cheerful like it should be, particularly with when he's in Smallville, contrast against to when he's not there, the way they did in the show Smallville, if it brought that more Superman aesthetic to it and took those parts out, you would have almost a perfect Superman film. And so that's why I have come around on it, despite some problems I still have. All right, now we're going to 2005 with Revenge of the Sith. And I'm going to be specific about what I disliked about this film, because I didn't dislike this film as a whole when it came out, but there were things I really didn't like about it. And I've come to appreciate it more with the more and more slop that Disney has served us and called Star Wars, because everything they've served us is not Star Wars. Outside maybe the first season of The Mandalorian, it really ain't Star Wars. What I hated, the romantic dialogue is bad in several spaces in here. I don't like sand. I'm haunted by the kiss. You're so beautiful because I'm so in love. These lines do not just fail. They fail in a way that suggested that nobody on set had the authority to tell George Lucas those lines sucked out loud. Okay? Because they do. But Hayden Christensen's performance also had its own problems, but look at the material he was given here in some situations. So maybe not his fault entirely, and that's something else I've come around on. Now, would I have rather have seen Joshua Jackson play Anakin, which was originally going to happen? Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen what he did with it, but I don't hate Hayden Christensen in this. What I really have liked about it and what I focus on more as it goes is like the final 45 minutes to an hour, the Order 66 happening, the fall of the Jedi Temple, Padme's death, Yoda's defeat. All of these sequences become really good. And then Ewan McGregor and, the fight and his grief, watching the destruction of his best friend, watching him make the wrong choices, seeing it kill him inside, and knowing because of the original trilogy where that ends up is awesome, okay? That far outweighs any other problems in it. This is definitely my fourth favorite now Star Wars film behind the original trilogy, and I don't even count these sequels from Disney anymore. I don't even count them. That was a purposeful destruction of our heroes and the things that we loved about Star Wars to try to fit their message or their agenda in and destroy everything Star Wars was. And hopefully, the rumor is they're on a track to reset the timeline and pretend those happened in an offshoot timeline. Let's hope they go for that. But the genuine failures since then have made me appreciate this even more, and I actually really like watching it now, despite some of the problems. Now, next up, we go very surreal with 2001's Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. And listen, I have said I famously avoided David Lynch most of my life. As a filmmaker, a writer, someone who taught film, all that kind of stuff, I always just assumed he was pretentious. It felt pretentious that he never wanted to say what his movies were about, what they meant, or anything else. And then I finally started watching his film. I was gifted Blue Velvet a couple of years ago. I watched it, and then I went down the David Lynch rabbit hole, and I realized something. David Lynch isn't being pretentious by not telling you what his movies are about. He wants you to decide what they are about. They're basically dream logic. He's giving you a Rorschach test, or whatever it's called, to look at, and for you to decide what the movie is about overall. Now, there's breadcrumbs that will send you in wrong directions, right directions, and everything else overall. And then I also realized if you really carefully watch David Lynch's films, you can find the devil himself in each movie, or a representation of him. It's easy to find. Guy in the cowboy hat in here. Look for it. You can find him in Lost Highway. You can find him as the ultimate bad thing that manipulates people in the wrong ways and pulls them down the wrong paths. In the way he puts all that. This is basically Sunset Boulevard here with scary dream logic. Lynch creates these worlds for you to discover yourself in. Sometimes they're scary, they're always surreal, but I will never again say pretentious. I have come around. I really enjoy this. I actually think I like this one better than Blue Velvet, which is maybe his most famous. But it definitely takes multiple watches because it is very different. I'm not going to lie to you. And you may absolutely hate it the first time through, because I didn't like it the first time through either. But dig deeper. Dig deeper, look inward, and then watch this movie. Mulholland Drive had to be here. All right, now next up is one that I have taken to task on this channel multiple times. I'm going to tell you that this one is a partial reversal, more of a appreciation now. It is Donnie Darko. And this is not a complete reversal at all. This is more of an appreciation, and I understand and I see what's happening here. What changed is I watched the director's cut just a few days ago with my 15-year-old son. We watched the full director's cut. First time I'd seen the director's cut. And he had the same reaction I did initially. It's needlessly sort of oblique and sort of purposely artsy-fartsy, angsty teenager energy that feels way overcooked and overperformed. The cult around the film doing way more work to lift this film up than it actually fully supports on its own merit. But talking through it afterwards with him, and we talked about it for a long time. The time travel mechanics of this, what it's trying to say about anxiety, depression, and the feeling of being disconnected from the world, that's all interesting. And, you know, it does feel like Kelly tries to be David Lynch. I purposely put these two together. And the film comes off, like my son said, as someone who has a concept of like the multiverse theory and fate and different timelines, but he doesn't fully understand them past the little passages that he puts in the movie. And we had a long talk about that from an actual scientific theory in here. If you've seen the movie, my son rightly pointed this out, when Donnie Darko starts seeing these lines that people move along, the reason he has to get out of this alternate universe that he accidentally created because of his free will to wake up and move before being killed, he has to get out of there because it messes up the timeline. It suggests that God gave us free will, and then we are allowed, because of that free will, there is a version of our universe, of our world, that exists for every possible choice that you make. And that's fine as long as those two don't collide. And when Donnie Darko accidentally moves against one of those, he jumps into another timeline, and those two things can't exist at the same time. They cannot. In that timeline, he was going to live. He could live. But he's already there. He's messing up things. He's creating an offshoot, a bad time branch he's not supposed to be in. So there's some definitely deep concepts here, and people will write entire dissertations about this, and I think that lifts the movie up beyond its station, but I don't have the hatred for it that I did upon my first couple of watches, and talking about it is fun. So this is more of an appreciation and a partial reversal than I love it, but I give it a better grade now than I used to. All right, number one involves a story I've told a couple times on this channel, and it involves John Carpenter's The Thing. I've told this story before. My dad loved this movie. My dad loved all movies. There were B movies, 80s movies, 70s movies. That was our common ground. He loved John Carpenter. He loved Kurt Russell. He loved The Thing, and he always tried to get me to really watch it and pay attention, and I always just didn't. I don't know why I couldn't get into this movie, because I love John Carpenter. He's my second favorite director of all time. I love Kurt Russell, top 5 actor for me all time. I love Keith David, one of my favorite underrated actors of all time. I have no idea why I just would not invest in this movie, because I love practical effects. I don't know why, other than just being a contrarian. I don't know why. But my dad passed away suddenly a few years ago, and I decided in his honor I was going to sit down and I was going to watch this movie, right? And I got the 4K of it, and man, the first thing I thought was, my dad was right, okay? And everybody else that talks about it is right. It's one of the greatest horror films, sci-fi horror, ever made. One of the greatest practical effects movies ever made. And then I thought, damn it, I wish I could have watched this with him and tell him he was right about it. I think it's one of the greatest ever made. It's great work from John Carpenter. I understand why my dad loved it. I didn't really hate this film. I just never gave it its opportunity. But now I absolutely love it. I could not love it more, because, you know, it also made me feel closer to him watching it without, you know, understanding what he loved about it. It gets you sentimental, and movies have that power. And because great films belong to people who love them overall. And when you've lost someone who loved something so much and you can watch it, you still connect with them and you understand why, that is the absolute awesome power of movies right there. I was wrong to not give this a chance. I wish I could have watched this with him just one more time before the time ran out for me to do that. So watch the films with people that you love. Enjoy them. Put your phone down, because you might find yourself connected to them in a way you never expected that will last long after one of you or both of you are not here anymore, and that is incredible. The Thing did that. I love this movie. So there you go. 10 films that I used to not like so much that I changed my mind on. Don't love completely everything about all of them, but these films are great films that are higher up on my list now, and some are at the highest of highs that you can get, and that is a hell of a thing. So don't shut yourself off to movies after one viewing or even 2 viewings. You gotta develop taste buds sometimes. Sometimes it takes more than one try, and sometimes this can go the other way, and I can probably do that video too, because there's films that I used to love that not so much anymore. So it can go the other way. Your tastes can change. That's why I reevaluate my top 50 movies of all time every single year, because you just never know. And that's why you got to never stop learning, growing, and experiencing new films, because there's so much out there. They change as you change, and that is awesome. And that's what I got for you this time. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Hit the hype button. Apparently that helps too. And if you want even more from me and you want to help channel a little bit more, you can join my Patreon. The link is in every description. You get 4K deep dive reviews, special members only videos, looks at my filmmaking, behind the scenes photos, so much, all kinds of discussions. Everything helps support the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.